All right, welcome everybody to the Monthly Movie Dispatch. Every month we get together and discuss our favorite new movie we saw the last month. We're high school friends. We've been doing this for 1,000 years. Just kidding. It's only been a few years, but we've been discussing movies for at least 15 years, and we love talking film. We'd be doing it if even no one was listening. I'm sitting here in Seattle, and I'm with Brandon Bowlby in New York City.
Hey, guys.
The question up top, Brandon, the king of summer, Will Smith. What's your favorite Will Smith summer movie? Men in Black or Independence Day?
Independence Day.
Independence Day. We got Derek, what's your deal? Up there in Everett, Washington. Derek, question up top. Independence Day or Men in Black?
Men in Black. Definitely.
And we've also got Sean Bowlby in Seattle. And Sean, guess what? I got a nickname for you. Sean Bowlby, Mr. Big Take. Because you're full of big takes these last few weeks. Yeah. Months, I should say. Men in Black or Independence Day?
Definitely Men in Black.
Ooh.
All right. I'm on the Men in Black train too, except both of them I think are pretty freaking amazing pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah, and I'm definitely on board for both of them.
I just want to say I feel like I haven't seen Men in Black in a really long time, so that could be the culprit of this.
Dude, Men in Black is like a perfect movie.
Men in Black gets better with age too.
I feel like Men in Black holds up just straight up as a good movie. Like, it's a good movie. Independence Day is not a good movie, but it is a really fun.
I take offense to that, Sean. Independence Day is a pretty great movie.
It's a great movie. No, it's definitely a great movie. It's just not a very good movie.
Ooh. It has that random shot of like the most powerful salute ever. Have you guys seen that? I think it's like meme. Just a random pilot that's just like, bam! Like the most powerful.
Isn't that Jane from Firefly who does that? Is that character?
What?
We're going so deep.
The random extra?
Yeah, dude, I was just going to bring up that extra that I know you're a big fan of, Derek. The guy who's looking at the building before it blows up. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's one extra who's like really into it. Anyway, we should not talk about Independence. Yeah, in the New York scene, yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so this month was July, and we are going to talk about we're going to do a brief summer movie wager update. We're going to talk about the movies that have made money for the month of July, talk about how our summer movie wager's going, who's in the lead, who looks to maybe be the winner, depending on how August goes. And then we're going to go into our two featured reviews. Basically, we only have two movies this month because we both, between all four of us, there were two movies that really, really stood out. And those are Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's new movie, and Midsommar, the new horror film by Ari Aster. So, and we'll be doing spoiler sections for both of those movies. So we'll add a little bit of a timestamp on there for when we'll be doing spoilers. But I kind of just want to dig right into it, guys. Do the summer movie wager update. So it looks like there are a few movies that came out, but there were two movies that really gave us a lot of ground for the month of July. And those movies are The Lion King and Spider-Man Far From Home. So let's start with The Lion King. How much money did The Lion King make this month? Who wants to give us a little update on The Lion King?
Too much money.
Way too much.
So The Lion King,
but that was Brandon's favorite movie of the year so far. So
okay, I mean we shouldn't make fun of Brandon for The Lion King quite yet. Let's talk about how much money it made. It made $392 million as of right now. So right now it's sitting right behind Toy Story in third place on our summer movie wager for the summer. And at this point, it will absolutely pass Toy Story. Toy Story has
passed Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story currently has $402 million. Lion King is at 392. So very quickly here, Toy Story is slowing down, and Lion King just keeps racking in the dough.
I called it. I called it.
Yep.
You did.
You did,
Biggest
Brandon.
showdown of the summer.
You did call it. I don't know. That's huge. And I mean, we all saw it coming. And besides, I mean, you're the only one that put it in second place. I didn't want to bet against Pixar, but after seeing how much money Aladdin made, I think it was pretty clear that that Lion King being an even bigger movie was going to just crush and get in second place.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to give myself an excuse by saying that I had too much faith in humanity, but I mean, I just didn't see it.
I mean, Sean, you did see it though.
I mean,
you're part of the problem, man. You saw.
No, I'm
Lion
sorry.
King.
I mean, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see this coming. Like, I would like to say that I had too much faith in humanity and that I voted with my heart and I believed in humanity, but I just didn't see that Lion King.
Yeah, we're not voting for ideals here.
Yeah, I know.
I think the problem is, and what we need to understand going forward with these remakes is that Disney is like crafting a box office like winner every time. So it's like, we all, I think, really knew that The Lion King was going to win. I just think all of us were like, it can't beat Toy Story. It just can't. Like, it won't. But really, it's like every single sign pointed to, of course, The Lion King is going to win in the box office. Like, look at, I don't know, just look at how it hasn't made it that far on the quality. Like, this was completely in the casting and in the marketing and everything.
Yeah,
like
for sure. They know how to make gold.
Yeah.
They know how to just print money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this happens every year with the Summer Movie Wager, where we make predictions, we make guesses, we come up with reasons for picking these guesses, but in hindsight, it seems so obvious. Like, of course, Lion King was going to crush. Of course, it was going to get in second place.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What do you guys think? I was kind of thinking, does Disney have any more Lion Kings? I think Mulan very well could do the same thing. But outside of Mulan, do you think they have any more like classic films that can be?
I mean, I think the last one is The Little Mermaid, and then they finished their like new wave '90s remakes.
Yep.
Snow White. I guess there did Snow White, huh?
Yeah, but that's like going back. That's like going way back. So they have a lot of stuff they could mine still if they go way to the past. But like as far as the ones that people will show up for in these big waves, I think Little Mermaid's the last one.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably doesn't even have what Aladdin had, I would say. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, depends what kind of like stunt casting they get.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I feel like it's right around there with Aladdin, maybe a little below, but still, it's going to be a blockbuster.
Also, like Lion King and Aladdin both have draw for young boys and young girls, whereas I don't know. I feel like Little Mermaid wouldn't have the draw of the boys.
It's just more princess than any of the others.
Mm-hmm. I think if they indulge in the final battle quite a bit, I think they could, because it's movie gets pretty epic.
For what? For Mulan or
no? Is that what we were talking about? No, Little Mermaid.
Yeah, Little Mermaid.
What else is there?
Yeah,
Pocahontas?
I guess there's a big
is that the only other '90s?
Pocahontas. I don't know. I mean, actually, Snow White and the Seven Dwarves very well could be that.
Well, they did that already, though. With Kristen Stewart. It was a flop. That
was Sleeping Beauty.
No.
Yeah.
No, Snow White and the Huntsman.
Wait.
There was a Snow White and the Huntsman
I was
movie,
thinking right. I was thinking Maleficent.
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah. You're right.
Cinderella.
They did that.
They did Cinderella with.
So I'm the only one out of here that hasn't seen The Lion King. Going back to The Lion King, I really want real quick. I want to talk. No, I did not see that movie. I chose not to see it because.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I chose not to see it. I was busy. and didn't feel like making the time for it. I mean, I don't know how in depth we want to go on this, but what did you guys think of the movie? I know, like, I feel
really
like first,
curious, like, how you think, like, how are you feeling having not seen it based off people's reactions so far?
Okay, so I feel pretty good. I feel fine. I don't know. I feel fine. The thing is, here's the funny thing. I don't know how far in depth that we want to go with this, but like, me and Sean had a really bad argument about Lion King months ago. Like, we got really heated. I was really mad. I don't even know if Sean was mad, but it felt like we both were like, it was like a pretty heated argument. And my point was, hey, just let people have fun. Like, whatever. It's a fine movie. And Sean was like, no, this is bad. This is bad, Nick. And we got into this really, really dumb argument about it. And somehow, since we had that argument, my opinion changed to like, yeah, you know what? It is actually kind of dumb. It looks like a shot-for-shot remake, and I historically don't like talking animal movies, like especially when they're real animals. When you have like a real animal that's talking, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, you guys know my feelings about Paddington. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. And so I was like, why should I see Lion King? This doesn't make sense to me. The cartoon makes sense because they're silly. They're animated. They're singing. This is great. But the whole live action thing, I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to see it. And then Brandon, you were really, really excited about this movie. And so I don't want to be the person to rain on your parade, but you kind of orchestrated this thing where you and Derek and Sean all went to the movie together.
I was really excited for it. Just like what could go wrong? Like, at the very least, this is going to be so much fun. And I'll start by saying it was absolutely jaw-dropping technology. From the opening moment, like, I gasped, and it was gorgeous. However, pretty much everything about this movie was so flattened down in every aspect. The drama was flattened, the comedy was flattened, the music was flattened. Like, all of it was just so plain from how brilliant it used to be. So in most every other aspect besides the visuals, it was very disappointing.
So, Sean, as someone who
betrayed
your innermost feelings,
your morals,
your morals. This argument that we had, somehow you ended up going to see the movie.
Yeah. So
tell me more about that.
In my defense, Brandon comes over from New York twice a year. And I like spending, as much time as I can with him while he's here. And he wanted to see Lion King, and it turned into this thing where I wouldn't have seen it on my own, but Brandon was going to see it. It's a big movie, obviously. It's a movie that people are going to be talking about a lot. I have AMC Stubbs A-list, so it's basically free for me to go see.
You're going to the Dolby Theater. It's going to be a comfy seat, middle of the summer, air conditioned.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where if I didn't go see it, it would have just been because I was being stubborn. And there was literally no reason to not go see it. I would have, if I hadn't have seen it, I probably would have dropped Brandon off at the theater
and just hung out at the mall.
Gone and hung out in the mall for 2.5 hours.
You could have gone see a different movie. I've done that.
I definitely could have.
I've done that where I went to the theater with a group of people and they were all seeing something and I was like, that looks dumb. I don't want to see that. And I just went to see Hollywoodland by myself.
You should see it, Nick.
I think I'm gonna. I'll probably watch it. I'll probably watch it when it comes on Blu-ray because I'm trying to be 100% on the top 100 highest grossing movies of all time, and I'm at 94% right now. So, I need to see that and Aladdin at this point. So, and Toy Story 4. Still haven't seen that, but the other movie that came out that made a lot of money was Spider-Man: Far From Home. and that's currently sitting at number 4 with $352 million, just past Aladdin. So it'll probably stay at that range. I don't really see it passing Toy Story 4 or The Lion King, obviously. That movie is another one that we kind of had mixed reviews about. I thought it was absolutely what I wanted from a Spider-Man movie. We kind of talked about Lion King for a little too long, so I don't know if we really need to get into Spider-Man right now. But I love Spider-Man. What was that?
Oh, I said we can skim through it real quick.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was so much fun. It was the perfect come down after Endgame. Endgame being like this big monumental like piece of work that built up to everything, and just Spider-Man was just hanging out with these characters, going on vacation, just having fun. I had so much fun with Spider-Man, and I know Sean didn't like it. Sean thought it was one of the worst MCU movies, which I don't understand at all.
Yeah.
But
the one of the worst. It was now that I thought about it, it's the second worst MCU movie that I have seen, just above Iron Man 2.
Sean, you're crazy though. Like I seriously,
I haven't seen that many really bad ones though. I'm sure you guys are going to point out a lot of MCU movies that are probably worse than this movie, but I almost certainly have not seen them. One good example that is I actually saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I thought this movie was worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp because at least Ant-Man and the Wasp was funny and it had some clever action.
See, Sean, though,
I straight up, I don't think I gave this movie got more than 3 chuckles out of me throughout the entire movie, and they were barely chuckles, and I thought, and the action scenes were so bland and dull, and I cared so little about the villains, like, because there were several villains in this movie, but and none of the action scenes I thought were interesting at all.
Sean, remember how I had your nickname as Big Take Sean? Yeah. I think I'm going to change it to Fart Take Sean because you're full of farts. I honestly, I feel like you must have been hungry or something. Like, were you, in a bad mood going into the movie? Like, were you, feeling okay? Because,
really good. Like, it was honestly, honestly, I was rode my bike to the theater, and
I was having so much fun. I saw it with Cow, and we were elbowing each other, laughing hysterically at certain parts.
See it by myself.
I think both of you are out of control. And I think this movie was much more middle road than either of you guys are giving it credit for.
Where would you put it, Brennan? Obviously,
what did I give it? 2.5, 3 stars? I think that's about it.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, where would you put it? Because obviously you probably think it's a little bit better than Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But is there?
I don't know if I've ever made my Marvel power ranking, but I don't know. Lower mid tier, I guess.
Yeah.
My take is that it is definitely a messy movie, and I'm not sure I like some of the choices they made for Peter Parker's character. There's some stuff that I know people were hoping they weren't going to do, and then it seemed like they weren't going to do it, and then kind of by the end of the movie they're like, oh no, yeah, he's definitely going to be the next Tony Stark, essentially, which is really eye rolly to me. It's the most boring direction they could take the character, but
yeah.
But the cool things about the movie is the Mysterio dream sequence when he first when he attacks. Well, I don't know if we're doing spoilers or not. I don't. But the dream sequence. There's just one really.
Totally.
Gosh, those were so good.
That was awesome.
Totally, and that's one scene that I did perk up for, and I did really like it.
So, Sean, do you want to break down the Summer Movie Wager? Apparently, you've done a lot of work, and you've calculated the Summer Movie Wager down to a science, which I don't really believe that you're accurate on. But if you want to,
so I learned C++, and I've been doing all this coding to write some soft. No, I basically just brute forced it. All right, so right now, basically, Brandon and I have zero chance of breaking the top 10 or winning the top 10. Zero chance. I could get into why, but basically I have zero chance because no matter where everything lies, my list is almost exactly the same as Derek's list, and Derek has John Wick 3.
So Derek's going to be
has
3
John
points
Wick
ahead
3
of you
on
no
his
matter what.
list, and he's going to beat me with John Wick 3 no matter what happens. Brandon, however, has at least 2 movies that are not going to make the top 10. Men in Black and Dark Phoenix aren't going to make the top 10. And so he is there's no way Brandon can come ahead of Derek, basically. And then Nick is barely hanging in there. But the one saving grace for Nick is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is his number 10, which he could get 13 points for. So that, and the 13 points that you would get for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood would actually bump you up just ahead of Derek.
Just ahead? So he almost has to land the 13?
Yeah. Yes.
He can't land like 5 or 7.
But see, this is where I'm pretty confused on your. I mean, again, I'm sure you could break it down and we could spend an hour on it. But like, last year, for example, I thought I was in pretty good shape with my number 10 choice, and then the Meg came out of nowhere, and the Meg snuck in the top 10, and that changed everything. Hobbs and Shaw, we don't know where it's going to land, and that could shake up something else too. There could be a variable.
Here's the reason why. Okay, so I mean, obviously, I haven't taken into account every possibility. There could be other movies that come completely out of nowhere and break into the top 10. I'm kind of looking ahead and thinking that any movie that even has the remotest of chances to break the top 10 won't have enough time to do so. So like, I mean, even if like Good Boys, which looks like it's going to be, do pretty well, that movie only has a couple weeks to make all its money to break into the top 10. So I am making an assumption that we pretty much know what the top 10 movies could be at this point.
Okay. Well, so that's some review wager. This time next month, we'll pretty much know who the winner will be. So when we record the next episode, I'm pretty sure we'll know who the winner is, as long as we record it after Labor Day, because Labor Day does count. So the Monday of Labor Day does count. So we have a full month to see which makes the most money. And
I kind of think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to come down to maybe even the last week. So
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to make the top 10. It had a pretty solid opening, and people are pretty excited about it. It could, though, go to number 9. And then we'll see what happens.
110 million, that's the number it's got to be.
Yep.
All right.
So with that, I think we should go into our first feature review for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the movie that I chose for the month. Spoiler, the other 3 of you guys chose Midsommar to be your number 1 movie of the month. So I chose Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino's 9th movie. Real quick plot summary. A faded television actor and his stunt double strive to achieve fame and success in the film industry during the final years of Hollywood's golden age in 1969 Los Angeles. So, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm a pretty big Quentin Tarantino fan. I've seen all of his movies probably 10 times, besides like Death Proof, and Django Unchained. But I pretty much loved this movie. I loved I'm also a sucker for this time period with Hollywood. I know that's kind of like that's something that maybe you're interested in or maybe you're not interested in. For example, like I was a pretty big fan of the Coen Brothers Hail Caesar movie, which took place around the same time in Hollywood, and most people didn't like that. So, I'm kind of lean towards, I like these kind of movies. I like movies about old Hollywood. I loved how this movie kind of played with your expectations. Like it kind of played with what you might think of history, which we'll get into more later, but also with like the technique of it. There were often times where you think it was going to go in a certain direction, or you think like a Tarantino sort of thing might happen, and then it kind of shies away from that. It was a very sweet movie. It was very like, kind of like, it wasn't as violent as Tarantino movies usually are, and it had a lot of heart in it, which also Tarantino movies don't necessarily have a lot of heart. But it was cool because it was like, I don't know, it was like sentimental about Hollywood, and I don't know, I just really loved how this movie played out. It had a lot of like really cool structural choices. Like, for most of the movie, you don't really know where it's going. Like, it's a lot of just hanging around with Leonardo DiCaprio, the actor, and Brad Pitt, the stuntman, his like personal assistant. And for a lot of it was just like, okay, where is this going? And then it kind of comes together with this big finale. And but yeah, I mean, I was engrossed the whole time, and I was just laughing a lot, and I was having a great time. Mm-hmm. Brandon, I think you were next in line with the appreciation of this movie.
Yeah. I think this is one of the more enjoyable Tarantino films I've seen in a while. I don't know, maybe since like even just Kill Bill. Like, I just had such a blast watching this movie. And even though I think I like some like maybe better, like of course Inglourious Bastards, like that movie is horrifying to watch, while this one was like a fun breeze. This movie, so basically, I don't know, this movie was a breeze. I think the pacing of it, like Quentin Tarantino has just always had a knack for incredible pacing, even when his story is meandering like it does in this film. And a huge chunk of that has to do with like, the leads, Brad Pitt, Leo, Margot Robbie, are all just like, I don't know, hamming it up. They're such a blast to watch, and they all have that key charisma that just makes movies like you just want to follow these characters no matter what they're doing. I think I have a big thing to talk about with my experience of the history that I knew or didn't know of this film, but I think I want to touch back on that right after we go into spoilers. So, yeah, what'd you think, Derek?
It was great. I mean, there's something about the way Tarantino makes his movies that just feels like they just feel so warm and like authentic and not Hollywood. Like they don't feel like anything else. I don't know, like just the look, the texture of the film, like it's just such a beautiful. Yeah, it's nice to see someone that appreciates film so much, like in an old sense, as opposed to like a new, super digitized special effects kind of sense. Like it's very, everything feels so authentic and so real. Like, all the old cars and the vast, like huge sets and, it just feels so old school, and it's just a cool thing to see, like out of a summer blockbuster. You just don't, the next we won't get to see that again until he makes another movie. No one else does that, so that's just really cool.
Tarantino is like extremely authentic with every single thing he does. Like in Jackie Brown, there is really $1 million in the bag that they're carrying around in cash. And awesome. in The Hateful Eight, when I think Kurt Russell or someone destroys that guitar, that was actually a priceless guitar that he destroyed. They were supposed to switch it out before he smashed it, but they all got kind of caught up in the filming, and he just smashed this basically priceless guitar.
Well, and I know even in this one, with the studio switch, because this is the first non-Weinstein produced Tarantino movie, part of his contract that when he was kind of shopping around to different studios was like, one thing he wanted out of it was to be able to buy more old cars to put in the movie so they could really fill the whole streets with them. And so yeah, it's just that little bit just makes such a big difference. This kind of movie I think will hold its quality a lot longer. It's just, I don't know, it's just a different experience, and it's not something we get to see very often. So that's always awesome, and that was really fun. I also, like you said, it's kind of a different movie for Tarantino. It's probably one of the more lighthearted, for the most part, for most of the running time. It's more of a, sweet, I hate using that term, like love letter, but it really is like about appreciating the medium. Like,
especially with Quentin Tarantino, because pretty much every one of his movies is a love letter to something, some era of cinema.
Yeah. And I love the direction they took with showing that, this movie is very much about acting, and it was just a really interesting and fun story for them to tell. The fall of like this actor and his passion for acting, and how he really cared about being a good actor as opposed to just making money and stuff like that. And then it had the Tarantino flair, which it just makes every scene so fun and funny and awkward and just enjoyable. And all the leads were great. This is probably one of my favorite Brad Pitt movies in a long time. Like, he doesn't do a lot anymore. And it was really cool just to see him like as such not just being Brad Pitt in a movie. Like, this was really a meaty role for him, I thought, and I really loved his character. So it was just cool to get to see that too.
I guess I'll just echo everything you guys said. It's a really fun movie to watch. He's so good at Quentin Tarantino's so good at like drawing you into scenes and making scenes individual scenes so interesting. And I almost think like this is his most, or at least for a part of this movie, or like the first half, I thought this might be his most mature movie. Like, in that the dialogue wasn't like, it wasn't poetical, or it felt a lot more like two people or people sitting having a real conversation, whereas most of his other movies, it's very kind of almost more prose, and it definitely feels written. So I thought like that was kind of a fresh for Quentin Tarantino. And it felt like it was just kind of about this character, and it was such a great portrayal of that character by Leonardo DiCaprio. It was so honest and real, and I think he did a great job of showing how specifically how Quentin Tarantino feels about those types of actors. He's talked a lot about that era, and kind of those types of actors, those working actors who do a lot of different kinds of roles, but usually they're kind of B movies or television or sometimes foreign films, but they really have like an innate talent. They don't really get to show it off that often, but they do have a really good talent for acting. And Leonardo DiCaprio pulled that off so well, playing that kind of B movie actor, but you can definitely see through that those, him in those B movies and see that he does have a talent for it, because obviously it's Leonardo DiCaprio playing it, and he can pull off really good acting in those scenes. But yeah, I also loved Margot Robbie was so good. And she didn't have a lot of dialogue and she didn't have a lot of lines, but she just had a classic Hollywood quality about her, where she was just so lovable on screen, and she just in her face and in the joy that she felt during certain scenes, like when she was watching herself in the movie theater, it was just so good, and you instantly connect to her, and I loved her performance in the movie.
We definitely still got her story, it was still well told, even without, there wasn't a lot of speaking lines, like you said, but we still visually, in the location she goes and the things she does, it told the story for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I had a question for you. I had more to talk about how I experienced the movie and how the people that I went to see the movie with experienced, and how it was different for certain reasons. But we should get into that in spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess we'll do spoilers from here forward, but also what we're going to talk about isn't necessarily a spoiler. So anyway, we are going to talk about spoilers. So spoilers from here on forward. I know Brandon has a lot to say about this too, but this movie was the trailers were kind of vague on what this movie was about. But if you followed the news, or going in the story about what this movie was going into it, it was you would know that when it was the script was being shopped around, it was the Quentin Tarantino Manson murder movie. So it was supposed to be Hollywood, and the Manson family murders were going to happen to Sharon Tate, played by Margot Robbie. And so you would absolutely have a different experience about the movie depending on how much you knew about the Manson family murders. Yeah. So Brandon, I know you had.
Can I jump in real quick and talk about, because I kind of uniquely, I saw this movie with 3 different people, and we all 3 knew different amounts about this movie, and we all 3 knew had very different experiences of the movie. And so I saw this movie with my friend Matt and with Kelly, where Matt saw this movie almost knowing nothing about the film, only knowing it was Quentin Tarantino's Hollywood movie. I went into the movie knowing that it was about the Manson murders, but not knowing nearly enough about the Manson murders to even be able to tell that this character, Rick Dalton, wasn't a real character, wasn't a real person in Hollywood. So I actually watched almost the entire movie thinking that he was playing a real person. And then Kelly watched this movie knowing that it was about the Manson murders, and she recently had done some research on the Manson murders and knew a pretty good amount about the murders going in to see the movie. And so she knew pretty much right off the bat that Rick Dalton and this guy, I forget the name of Brad Pitt's character, but knowing that they had nothing to do with the Manson murders and that they didn't play any role. And so her experience was why are these made up characters a part of a Manson murder movie? And
right. So we shall say who we are in this scenario. Are you Sean, Kelly, or Matt?
I'm
Brandon.
Sean.
You're Sean?
Yeah.
Right in the middle.
Sean is Sean.
Derek is Sean.
Sean is Sean.
Brandon, who are you?
I'm Matt, but I'm also even further back than Matt. So I didn't know it was a Manson murder film, but I also don't know what the Manson murders are, and I've never heard of Sharon Tate, and I don't really even know that Charles Manson had a cult. I've maybe just knew he killed somebody in the past.
I don't think he's actually killed anybody.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I'm Kelly in this scenario because I knew a fair amount. Like I knew that Rick Dalton wasn't real. I knew all of that was made up, and I knew that. But I did know that the murders happened in Roman Polanski's house. I knew that Sharon Tate was pregnant when she got killed. I knew how brutal the murders were. Like when they started, when I didn't know what date it was, but when they said the date and it started happening, and I saw that she was pregnant, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. We're gonna see some bad stuff. And it was pretty crazy though. Like we're in the spoiler section, so like I think it's fair to say at this point that he pulled an Inglourious Bastards and he just changed history.
Yeah
Which was pretty fucking awesome. And like for how awful these murders were in real life, it's pretty fucking badass that you got to see these horrible people get brutalized and just torn apart in such an incredible way. I don't know.
I also thought that it was, knowing nothing and not even knowing that these murders were real, I thought it was like just a great excuse to have this major event lead to such like a minuscule moment of him talking to his neighbor by the fence. And so knowing nothing, I was like, I thought Quentin Tarantino just orchestrated the most amazing, icebreaker of all time, just so he would be like, hey, how's it going? What happened over there in your house?
Yeah.
And when that moment happened to me, I was like, oh, like that's when the whole movie came together in my ignorance. I was like, that's brilliant. That's so clever.
Yeah, that was a pretty amazing moment. Like, just, is everyone okay?
Yeah.
Well, they're all dead, but...
And right when that happened, I knew the whole, like, Roman Polanski connection, how they would end the movie, like, romantically like that, and I was like, oh, this is going to be so touching.
Well, and I can't help but like get like, my mind races and I start thinking like, there's like Quentin Tarantino has now created an alternate timeline where Sharon Tate's still alive. She got to be in a bunch more movies. If Sharon Tate didn't die, would Roman Polanski have gotten arrested for child abuse? I guess he
child pornography.
It wasn't child pornography. It was
I thought he took pictures of. He drugged and took pictures of.
I thought he like had relations with a minor.
Maybe I thought.
Sounds like we need to visit Wikipedia.
Yeah, we just
either
we're
way,
kind of guessing on a lot of stuff. But anyways,
if
really, really bad.
Would he have gone in trouble for that if his wife was still alive? I just can't help it. Like, I have an imaginary sequel in my head about this alternative timeline,
and obviously Roman Polanski, that none of that happened before the murders. So this movie takes place well before any of that happened or any of that came out or anything.
Right.
But yeah, and like where I forget who said it or where I heard it, but it's almost even people kind of say that the Sharon Tate murders or those Manson murders were kind of in a lot of ways brought about the end of the golden age of Hollywood, and like really changed the way that people saw Hollywood actors so this is almost kind of Tarantino maybe even extending that golden age of Hollywood, and maybe it is still around today. And
how much of that do you think was self-referential from about flack that he's gotten for violence in his movies? So there's literally a line in there where one of the Manson family members is like, Hollywood taught us violence, now let's show them violence, or something like that,
Yeah.
How much do you think that was in any way like him, like, fuck you
feel
guys?
Like that was, yeah, I do kind of feel like he was aware at least of what he was writing. I don't know if he was trying to make a specific point about it or or if he was trying to say something specific about it. But yeah, just kind of him killing the people who, because I think that those ideas did play a big role in the murders. Like that's like they were trying to like that was
in real life.
Yeah, like that was some of the reasoning.
I mean, it's much more complicated than that. They wanted to start a race war. Between...
Yeah, there was a lot. It's really complicated. There is a lot to it, but I think that may have played a part in why the murders happened. Is that they were, Anyways,
but I will say though, like that. So like we have the first hour and a half of the movie that's pretty much just Margot Robbie walking around, and then Brad Pitt and Leo are hanging out on movie sets and like running errands and stuff like that. That's like an hour and a half straight, right? And then when Brad Pitt goes to the Manson family farm, like that's when it really feels like a Tarantino movie, kind of, It like instantly that tension kicks in, and it's like, I don't know, from that point, like the whole movie's great. I really loved it, but like I really like those thrilling aspects of his movies, and like that's the point where it like really grabbed me, and it's like,
yeah, what did Brandon think of that?
So freaking intense from there on out, I feel like.
So Brandon, I mean, they said the name Charlie. They never said. I don't think.
Yeah, it didn't register. I had no idea not until after the credits. I didn't even know this film was about anything Manson, and I don't even really know who Manson is, so it wouldn't have made a difference. I just thought it was a really. I actually kind of thought they were going to pull a From Dusk Till Dawn. Something like that was going to happen.
Like they're going to be vampires or something?
Yeah, I thought like something supernatural seriously was happening on that ranch.
Man, that'd be fucking crazy.
And I was so ready for them to all be like vampires or like werewolves.
How great was that scene though? That was kind of what I was alluding to earlier where, obviously they changed history, which shifts your expectations, but that whole scene is orchestrated where something is going to go wrong. Like you're watching it being like, okay, he's going to go into the house and the guy's going to be dead, or he's going to be drugged, or they're going to come up behind him and kill him. Like something's going to happen.
Yeah. Even till the very end.
Yeah. I mean, he just kind of goes in and, everyone's okay. They have that awfully like wonderful dialogue of like how he needs to go back to bed because Cookie gets mad when he falls asleep during the shows. And what happens when Cookie gets mad? Oh, nothing. I just don't like disappointing her. It's like it's so cute. It's like it's opposite of what you would ever expect in a Quentin Tarantino movie, especially.
It's like the ultimate rise and fall of tension there, because it's like we've been going this. We're like, God, what is Tarantino doing? This is so different for him. And we're like, okay, here it is. This is like where it all starts, and then it just does it.
Right.
Oh, you're like,
but then it like kind of comes back when he beats the shit out of the guy.
Well, yeah,
and the guy. And Tex is riding back on his horse.
Yeah.
And so, like, for me, as far as how I thought that these real Rick Dalton and his stuntman people were going to tie into the Tate murders, is I actually thought that is what was going to bring like the Manson people to Sharon Tate's house, because also
they'd run next door after killing Rick Dalton. Or something.
Like they go to the wrong house, because I had heard that them going to Sharon Tate's house was totally random, and that it was something along the lines of they went to the wrong house. And as what ended up really happening is it wasn't they didn't go to the wrong house. They went to that house because Charles Manson knew someone who used to live in that house, and he sent them, if you remember, because there's that scene early on.
Yeah, they set that up.
That was actually Charles Manson who shows up at the Tate at the Polanski Tate house.
Yeah.
Oh, so I forgot about that scene. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I kind of thought that. Anyways, that's what ended up really happening is Charles Manson sent them to the house of someone that he used to know. But I thought it was going to be this stuntman was going to bring them to the Tate house.
But instead it was 6 months later.
House. Yeah, it was 6 months later, and they just happened to live next to each other for no reason, other than this is Quentin Tarantino's universe and he can do what he wants.
I mean, it's the Hollywood Hills. It's where rich people live.
The ending.
So I think we need to move on, but I do think it'd be fun if we all went through and did our Quentin Tarantino rankings. So hopefully you guys have those prepared in front of you. But he's debatably, he's done 9 movies. He's always said that he's going to do 10, and then he's going to retire. But he considers Kill Bill one movie, so we're going to consider Kill Bill one movie. And who wants to go first with the rankings?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, Brandon.
All right, so in reverse order, number 9, I'm going to caveat this. I think I've maybe seen a handful of these less times than you guys. I've never done a Tarantino rewatch. But anyways, here goes. Number 9, Django Unchained. Number 8, Death Proof. Number 7, Hateful Eight. Number 6, Jackie Brown. 5, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 4, Reservoir Dogs. 3, Pulp Fiction. 2, Kill Bill. And number 1, Inglourious Basterds.
Ooh, okay.
Did any of those freak you guys out?
Jackie Brown's too low.
Yeah, I feel like Jackie Brown over all the others could go anywhere if I rewatched it. So
I think it's interesting.
Far off from mine, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Django, last place. That's crazy.
I mean, let's move on and see where we're at comparatively. But I mean, Sean, you said Django is crazy. What's your rankings?
All right, so I have a couple caveats. Jackie Brown is the movie I only saw once back in high school. I didn't even want to try and place it because I've seen all the other ones much more recently, so I just put Jackie Brown at the bottom. You could pretty much just say that I'm going to leave that off my list. So I guess Jackie Brown at number 9, but I'm just basically leaving that off my list. And then I have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at number 8. Yeah, I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I guess it's I think it's his worst movie, but that's not saying anything.
You really think that it's not as good as Death Proof?
Yeah.
I mean, Death Proof. Okay, so all right, let me just do my list. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at 8. 7 is The Hateful Eight. 6 is Grindhouse. 5 is Reservoir Dogs. 4 is Kill Bill. 3 is Django Unchained. 2 is Inglourious Basterds, and number 1 is Pulp Fiction.
Oh,
yeah, Grindhouse. Because I do in my head kind of put Grindhouse as one movie. I know he just did half of it, but that was Grindhouse might be the funnest movie theater experience I've ever had in my life. That was so fun to go see that double feature, and it was fucking brilliant that they put that together.
I agree, Sean. I saw Grindhouse 3 times in the theater, and because it was so fun. It was such a special thing. I just went back 3 times, but
yeah, I think I saw it at least twice.
But
I think I saw it twice.
But half of it is Robert Rodriguez, and at home I don't have Grindhouse sitting on my shelf. I have Death Proof. So
yeah.
What's your ranking?
I did put. I will. I think that was a whole thing that both of them together put together, and I give it. I didn't put it that high. It's only number 7, but
sure.
Derek,
what about you?
Okay. Starting from the worst. I haven't seen Hateful Eight.
Oh. Okay.
I haven't seen 4 Rooms. That doesn't count?
4 Rooms doesn't count.
Okay. And I haven't seen Death Proof.
Oh. So top 7.
Who are you?
So I'd say 7, probably Django. 6 is probably Pulp Fiction. 5, Jackie Brown. 4, Reservoir Dogs. No, wait. 4, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 3, Reservoir Dogs. 2, Kill Bill. 1, Inglourious Bastards.
Oh. What just happened? Okay.
Derek just flipped this on its head.
Oh, shit.
Did he?
I don't know.
Wow.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean,
you guys are, Django, you guys are putting so low.
Yeah, I mean,
where else would we go?
Yeah. So real quick with my ranking, I just want to say that I feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will go higher on my list once I see it again. It's just nearly impossible for me to compare. I've seen the top 5 here probably 10 times each. You know, I've seen all these movies so many times that it's just hard for me to really put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood like much higher than I have it, because I'm just so into all these other movies. But I've only seen it once, and I feel like I'm gonna like it more once I see it again. But okay, so my number 9 is Death Proof. It's Death Proof. It's like half a movie. Death Proof. Number 8 is definitely Django Unchained. Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Agreed.
And number 7 is definitely The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight's great. I love it, but it's definitely number 7. Number 6, I have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So that's where I have that one. Number 5, I have Kill Bill at number 5.
Blasphemy. Keep going.
You're a monster, Nick.
Number 4 is Reservoir Dogs. Game-changing movie, but not perfect, but game changer. Number 3 is Inglourious Bastards.
You're a bad person. Keep going.
Number 2 is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown is by far, Jackie Brown is by far my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. And but I'm putting number 1 the cultural sensation, another game-changing movie, Pulp Fiction, is his best movie, his most important movie. Pulp Fiction, number 1, with a bullet. Yep. So.
Yeah, why do you guys hate Django Unchained so much?
So good.
It's good. It just, I don't know. It's fine. I just don't love it as much. You know, it's like, it just.
I will say I like it. I still haven't seen. I've done a whole watch through of Quentin Tarantino's movies. The worst thing he did, easily, that he wrote and directed is the one Gravedigger episodes, the 2-part Gravedigger episodes of CSI.
I think I remember. Yeah, I watched those.
I saw that one. Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was CSI. It was kind of cool that they were, you know, the guy was stuck
right after Kill Bill. Volume 2 came out.
The guy was stuck in a hole. Have you guys seen the movie Buried? It's pretty much the same thing, I think.
I actually haven't. Yeah, I want to. Have you seen the movie Kill Bill? That's what happens to her.
Oh,
it does. It does. Okay, so let's move on, unless you guys have any big objections with the Tarantino rankings.
I object with your Inglourious Bastards location.
Oh, okay. I see.
Sustained.
Seconded.
So let's move on to let's move on to our last feature review, Midsommar.
Hey, so Midsommar is Ari Aster's new film. I'll read the IMDb plot synopsis. A couple travels to Sweden to visit a rural hometown, fabled Middle Eastern festival. What begins as an idyllic ritual quickly devolves into an increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of the pagan cult. So This is his Ari Aster's follow-up film from which came out last year, Hereditary. He made these back-to-back and incredibly fast. And this is without a doubt going to be one of my favorite films of the year. It's starring Florence Poe, Jack Renner, and William Jackson Harper, which actually kind of small-time-ish actors. And there's no big stars in this film, but they all carry the film very, very well. And
Florence
especially
is definitely
Florence.
on her way up. I feel like we should say that she's
especially
really,
Florence.
Yeah,
she is the main character, and the range of emotions she goes through in this movie is horrifying, and she pulls off every moment of it. And there's some shots that are just on her face, showing every pore, and it's absolutely believable in those moments. So congrats to her.
It's always nice to see a face that you recognize from something really small and them do really good. So William Jackson Harper from The Good Place was really nice to see him in it and do so well, and not even have any of the baggage. He didn't even bring any of the baggage from The Good Place. So
yeah. So this is going to be probably maybe top 10-ish movie of the year. We'll see. But definitely one of the best so far. It's already July. This movie is just Ari Aster knows every single scene, every single shot, what he wants, the way every character moves, every gesture and every camera pan and dolly shot. It's all just his vision on the screen, and from the very beginning you're in good hands. It's really cool to see a movie that is just this creative and this confident from beginning to end. And it's one of the best because of that. I think this film also has just an absolutely astounding opening sequence of events through the first 15, 20 minutes. Even just the opening weird title card of the flowers into the snowy suburban village. And what goes down with this lead's family is very, very horrifying, but incredibly well done. And just the way they put together this horrifying opening is beyond brilliant. The shots they choose to show, the lines of dialogue they choose to give you. The opening section of this film is ingrained in my head as such incredible filmmaking. And it doesn't really let down from there. I think one awesome thing they have that people have been remarking on a lot is how it's also juxtaposed with some really good humor that actually has you cracking up in the film. The line "Are we going to even talk about this bear?" as the camera whips by a giant brown bear in a cage. Just hilarious stuff like that throughout the whole film.
When they first take the mushrooms, and they're
for sure.
Josh is freaking out in the field. That's
when their friend is about to, I guess, get courted by the woman. And he's just in complete shock. He's "You want me to go with you?" And just the look and expression on his face, just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were definitely laughing a lot in my theater.
Yeah, it's a weird, scary movie. I don't even know. It kind of walks a weird line because I don't know. Do you guys consider this a horror film then?
I definitely consider it a horror film. It's not scary, but it is horrifying.
It is horrifying for sure. I don't think I was ever really scared of anything.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, agreed.
It's not like Hereditary, whereas Hereditary I was terrified.
Right.
This movie is
eerie.
It's not scary, it's just horrifying.
You just don't know where it's going, but you know it's not anywhere good. So it's kind of haunting, I guess, and horrifying as things get revealed, but you're not, as an audience member, you're not being attacked or terrorized or anything like that. So it's more of it kind of feels more like a thriller, but But yeah, I was going to say, when you guys were talking about that opening scene, I wonder if this is just going to be Ari Aster's MO, is just like the most upsetting first 20 minutes in every movie he makes. Like, Hereditary has arguably some of the most upsetting 20 minutes I've ever seen in any movie. It's like just shockingly horrifying and sad. And this movie kind of goes to the same places in the first 20 minutes. Maybe it's just an effective way of storytelling. It's just the way
I think, and that's the horror genre. Like, that's what you love about horror films. Like, if you do that in a drama, sometimes it's like kind of offensive or off-putting. But in a horror movie, you're needing something like that to unsettle the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
Well, and Ari Aster's also done a bunch of short films, all horror movies, but some of them are similar to this, where they're like emotionally horrifying. And I've seen a handful of them, and I kind of feel like at least this one, especially the way they pushed the title sequence, the beginning felt like a short film to me. It was so engrossing and so complete in and of itself, and by the end of it, the title sequence hits, and I was like, I was like, that was the beginning of the movie.
I totally forgot how late the title hits.
Yeah, like that was the title sequence. Like, I was so
okay,
surprised.
now you're set up. Now we can start our
yeah, like that was how the movie started. Like, where are we going now? And it was so upsetting. I mean, I'll be honest, I almost walked out. Like, I was like so upset in that moment. I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. And I'm glad I stuck through, but it was extremely upsetting. But it felt complete in and of itself.
For sure. And I think, like, that's what I appreciate so much about this movie. Like, that opening scene does a lot of heavy lifting for the characters. But, like, God, they all were so authentic and real. Like, just a couple steps more than most movies are willing to take. Like, I think it's easy especially for guys, to get annoyed with characters like our main character in this movie. Kind of, the perspective of her boyfriend is like, God, like, I'm dealing with a lot by being in this relationship with her, and that's kind of what the movie's about, is like whether, where his stance is on the relationship and stuff. But I think he took it just far enough that, like, God, I at least felt for her so much. And at the same time, like, I feel like I know that person, that I feel like it just felt so authentic. Like, I knew those people. Like, they didn't feel like these characters in a movie. Like,
I get what you're saying. I feel like the lead guy, for at least people I was seeing it with, was getting a pretty bad rep. And I was like, you know what? Like, I think it's way more of a gray area. I kind of felt a little bit for him in his situation too, for a bit.
Yeah. I totally agree. And like, I
disagree. Fuck that guy.
I mean, I don't, especially not by the end of the movie. But
by the end of the movie.
And it might have been partly because they didn't really establish.
What do you mean by the end of the movie? He was like, he was set up from the beginning as like, I don't know.
But like, here's the thing. Like, I don't even know how long they had been in a relationship. If they had only been in a relationship for a few months, or like 2 or 3 months.
She's very specific.
Like, now this is like a young college student who's like having like to deal with this crazy thing. I mean, regardless, of course, if he, you should try and be a good person, try and be supportive of it. But this is a massive responsibility that he has to take on in this movie. And I mean, yes, I think he is a bad person, especially by the end of the movie. But I do, I do think that there is more to his character than just like he's a bad person.
Sure. Yeah. But I thought, I mean, I've heard a lot of criticisms about the central relationship in this movie between Florence Pugh's Danny and Jack Raynor's Christian, and how the whole relationship the whole movie kind of relied on whether or not you believed the relationship, I think. And I've heard people say that the movie didn't give you enough. And I personally think the movie gave you perfectly enough. Like they told you that they were like 4 years into their relationship.
I actually didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a scene where he's like, someone asked them, and he's like, oh yeah, like 4 years, and she's like, no,
oh wow,
3 years.
No, it was the other way around. He was like 3 something, and then she knew like specifically how much it was, and it was longer than however long.
He was trying to downplay.
Yeah, and she was like, no, it's been a while. We've been together for a while, and it just, I personally felt like right from the beginning, I hear you, Sean. He was taking he had a big responsibility on his plate dealing with someone who was going through so much trauma. But I felt like from the beginning, they showed that he didn't have a backbone and was manipulating her feelings and
definitely
did a lot. Yeah, gaslighting. He was doing a lot of really shady things, and
it's kind of exactly what I mean too, though. I know that guy. I know that guy.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely met that guy multiple times.
I completely forgot that they had been in a relationship for that long, and I was kind of thinking I was thinking it had been a fairly short relationship, because that, I guess, makes more sense to me based on their characters. And them, just being kind of college students. Maybe they met in college and been together for under a year or so. But that does that puts a new perspective on it.
But I feel like from the beginning, though, you knew that the relationship was on its last legs, and they did a few things later on to kind of set up that he's worse than just being a bad boyfriend, And you're right. He doesn't. I kind of want to talk about more and more about this in spoilers, because I have like some questions.
Let's do it.
Should we just go into spoilers now, or?
Yeah, or let's do Sean and then let's do spoilers.
Yeah, Sean, do you want to say something, or should we just go? into spoilers?
I just wanted to. I guess I don't have much specifically about the movie to add. I think there's some really interesting plot devices in this movie, I guess, by kind of basically showing how the movie story is going to unfold in the shot early on in the movie, which I think is really clever and interesting. The art design and everything is incredible. Yeah. But I'm also just kind of fascinated by this type of horror film that they've been doing with Hereditary, and also The Witch before. It has some of the same producers as The Witch, have done all 3 of these movies. And I think they have a lot of similarities, especially in how they use folklore as the kind of more traditional folklore as the horror.
Paganism.
Paganism. Like The Witch was, about a witch, but it's not like the Harry Potter cute witch or Hocus Pocus cute witches. It's the terrifying, what kept the ancient, the American settlers up at night, in Salem. It's what when we were traveling around Iceland, we actually went to a museum of the history of witchcraft in Iceland, which is obviously Scandinavian, comes from a lot of Scandinavian folklore. And a lot of the stuff in this movie really reminded me of a lot of that stuff. And it's just really interesting how they use those things for horror, but at the same time, it feels so fresh from the horror that we see all the time.
Yeah, they're going back even further folklore to find something fresh. That is interesting
for sure. That's I really respect what they're doing with these movies.
Right, so let's talk about some spoilers. So from here on out, the rest of the podcast, we're doing spoilers. We're going to be talking about Midsommar with spoilers, so turn off now if you don't want to get the end of Midsommar spoiled for us.
Yeah, for sure.
So, for you. So spoilers. So I wanted to ask you guys. I'm sorry. What was that, Brian?
Oh, my topic. I don't know. So how cool were those British travelers? That couple.
What?
What do you mean? How cool were they? They were cool. They seemed nice.
They're like one of my favorite characters I've seen in horror film in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty great.
I like this. This is weird as fuck. We're leaving, and then they actually do leave immediately.
Well, they try to.
They try to.
Died, right?
But I know. But they literally just pack their bag and go. And I'm like, yes. And then the guy's like, oh, he left without you. And she's like, no, he didn't. That's weird. Fuck you.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
That was really great.
But at the same time, I thought they did a great job of giving you an explanation to why these people are the main characters would stay.
Yeah.
Like, them studying
anthropologists.
Anthropologists studying this culture, and that was a really clever. I don't know if that was just a device or where that came from, but that was a really clever way to keep them there.
Totally.
So that kind of leads me into what I wanted to say about that character, Christian, because he didn't know what he wanted his thesis to be until he got there, and then he tried to directly kind of copy his friend. His friend, the guy from The Good Place, William Jackson Harper. He was planning from the beginning to do his thesis on this society, and right when things start going weird and they had that reason for staying, Christian is like, you know what, I'm gonna do that too. And it was like, that was to me like enough character development to know that he's like a really terrible boyfriend and they should not be in a relationship, but also he's just a scumbag. He's just he's willing to dick over his friends, and he doesn't really have allegiances to anybody except himself. You can read you can like fill in the blanks of that guy so easily. Just what you're talking about, Derek. Like he's that guy who has probably had everything handed to him his whole life. He's just like, he feels like he deserves everything. He doesn't think about other people, and you really get to know that about him. But then ultimately in the end, he gets wrapped up in a bear costume and is burned alive. That's what happens to him.
Not a costume, in a bear.
Well, the bear's dead. So I guess it's a
costume.
It's a skinned bear.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't talk about the bear.
Right. And so he's burned alive. How do you feel about that? Did this guy, who's not a good person, but also not like a murderer, he's not like, a...
I mean...
do you feel bad for him for being burned alive, or...
Of course.
Do you cheer him?
In horror movies, this happens a lot. I was definitely rooting for him in the, before it got to the point where he's, paralyzed and stuff like that. They drug him. I was definitely even though all this crazy shit happened, I need our heroes to get out of here alive. I'm definitely rooting for them the whole time. But at no point did I really feel that's what you get.
I don't know. See, I was on the girl's side 100%. I feel like the movie did such a good job of
Nick
of showcasing her trauma.
So you were cheering.
I wasn't necessarily cheering him on, but the end of the movie, she smiles, and that's the end of the movie. And
it's really interesting.
And so, what is the movie trying to say there? Is the movie trying to say that she
found family,
that she's evil now, or that she found family, or that she's finally able to start over because her she's lost everything.
Well, I've got a bit of a hot take on that.
Big take, Sean here.
Well, so it kind of ties in with even what I said earlier about Christian. Is that his name? The main character?
He's not the main character.
The guy character.
Yeah.
The main guy character. So what I was saying is he takes on this massive responsibility by being the partner of someone who's gone through a horrible tragedy. Obviously, we're talking, now that we're in spoilers, we're talking about she loses her pretty much entire she loses her entire immediate family in one night, her sister and her two parents. And he takes on this massive responsibility to comfort her, to be there for her. And the question is, what is the responsibility of someone to fully support someone like that? And so kind of what I was saying earlier is like, if they had been together a short period of time and now all of a sudden he has this huge responsibility, how do you take that on? And do you have the right to just up and back out? Do you have the right to leave someone like that? You absolutely do. But I think that ties into this idea where later on in the movie, when she's going through these horrible things, and even set up earlier than that, when the guy, their friend from the cult, is saying like, I know what you've been through. I lost my parents. I grieved, but it was these people who were there for me. And then like throughout the rest of the movie, as she's like going through this trauma, as things keep getting more and more fucked up, like she is like, when all those women take her into the house or whatever, and she's just bawling her eyes out, and all the other women there are screaming with her, like almost empathetically taking on her pain with her. And they are in as much pain as she is because she's experiencing that pain. And like, even in the end, when the house is burning with not just what's his name, Christian.
But he's got
in the bear suit. There's two of their friends, their family members, who are burning alive, which goes back to their friend from the cult. He said his parents died in a fire. You assume that's the link there, but the rest of the cult, all the people outside are screaming with them. They're out there like reeling in pain and screaming and
empathy. They feel
like
the pain.
Everyone is taking on each other's pain in this society. And I think like in the end, she sees this and is, in some ways, it's comforting to her that they would do. And so that's what I think that was all about. That's my hot take on that.
Yeah, I mean, because of that, I kind of had trouble deciding whether or not, like, where these people even really landed on, like, an evil spectrum. Like, there's clearly people, part of their society, that are actually murderers. But also, like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. They don't give us enough information to know how involved everyone is with all these decisions that are being made and stuff. But like, that's the weird part of the movie is like they're not all inherently evil people either. The villains of the movie aren't all inherently evil. And so it's kind of I don't know, for me it was like that was a weird thing to kind of tangle with in my head. Is like, where, like, if I'm saying they're not evil, that they just like burnt people alive and like murdered some other tourists and stuff like that, is like, I don't really know. But at the same time, like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird.
It's a whole Nazi bystander German thing, right? Like,
for sure.
Everyone in that village knew that they were burning two people every time the ceremony happened, I guess once every 70-something years or whatever it was.
Yeah, once
and they,
70
against their will, not their friends, but the two people they chased down in the woods and slaughtered and all that stuff.
There's definitely
everyone
the
knew that.
Where they're luring outsiders
passive.
In to this thing. That's definitely evil. I assume that guy, the guy who brought his friends and the guy who brought the British people there, I assume they all knew that they were bringing people there to die.
Yeah. I think everyone knew the end, like, result of all of this.
Yeah. So that's the evil part. I am questioning though, like when those two older people go up on the cliff, and jump off. Like, I don't know if that's evil or if
that's a weird moral or if spot it's like too. Like where I'm curious where
it's
you
like
guys
moral like that's like indoctrination. Like, yeah, it's assisted suicide, which should be legal, but at the same time, you can't implant, like evil morality into babies' heads since they're born to make those kind of decisions when they grow up.
Yeah.
And then also those two people willingly volunteering to go into the house as it burned.
That brand of self-sacrifice, self-suicide,
but at the same time, like,
it's all part of the culture.
The empathy that they all feel for each other, the community, and the sacrifices that they make for their beliefs, their belief that they are doing something that's for the best for the whole community, because they say that what's the morality of letting someone grow old and putting them in a home where they just kind of rot the rest of their lives alone and suffer, as opposed to these two people who commit suicide and
what about
the community no longer has to support them, and they presumably they believe that probably has some kind of spiritual benefit to the community. But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there.
I mean, all of this is what makes this movie so good too. It's like there's just so much of that to talk about.
Yeah, you guys no one's brought up to me what was the best part about this movie. So I definitely like this movie. I definitely like this movie less than you guys did, by the way. I thought it was way too long. I probably won't ever rewatch this movie because it just was too long. I didn't really...
Have you heard the backstory of the running time of this movie?
No.
Ari Aster's original cut of this movie, he said, was just shy of 4 hours long.
Jeez.
Wow.
Release the director's cut.
That's what. Yeah, there was a hashtag on Twitter after this came out that was like, I think it was like more mocking the Snyder cut thing of Justice League.
I mean, that's cute.
It's just crazy. That's how much they filmed. It was designed as that long of a movie. It's nuts.
I mean, I feel like that might happen with a lot of movies. I wouldn't know for sure, but I don't know.
A lot of it probably had to do with they had one location anyways. So he could just keep writing more and more pages.
They were all just in one place, just kind of all hanging out for a long time. It didn't necessarily feel too long while it was happening, but there wasn't enough happening for it to really be that long for me. Compare it directly to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was just about the same length. There was a lot constantly happening. There was scenes within actions of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Midsommar was just, they're just kind of hanging out for.
And I kind of agree, Nick. I think I have it in my head as a low 4.5, as opposed to a strong 4.5.
Yeah.
I definitely thought Hereditary was stronger in that sense, and that's why I still put Hereditary above this movie.
Yeah,
it just has it. There's more to it. There's more. It's better paced. It has kind of a through narrative that's pulling you along. Whereas for this movie, I will say the thing that really kept me going was just how it explored this world and how it explored this community. Always, continuously, very slowly, unveiling the workings of the, I don't know, what do you call it? The cult, the community,
the religion,
the religion. That's what kept me going. I found it so fascinating. How they did that.
Lots of research.
Yeah.
He's a good writer.
There's some insane shots in this movie too. Specifically, I'm just thinking of those dinner table scenes where everyone's waiting to start eating. And then, like, it's always like 50 people that the camera pans across, all at the perfect timing, each one of them picking up their, like, forks and everything, one after another, like, perfectly timed without missing any little beat there. It's, like, panning across 50 people. It does it multiple times. It's like, Jesus Christ. The amount of, like, planning to make that work is just intense.
Yeah, it was really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we should wrap it up. We've been talking about this for a really long time. So, real quick, let's talk about, real quick, before we finish the episode, let's each say if we're looking forward to a movie next month. Sean, what are you looking forward to?
I'm really looking forward to the movie Good Boys. It looks really fun and super funny.
From the director of Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh, really?
The classic.
Brandon, what about you?
I'm looking forward to The Farewell. Really excited.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's getting really great reviews. Derek, what about
Festival Darling from earlier this year.
There's a couple. I really want to see Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I know it'll hang around for a while. But what I'm really, really curious about to see how it turns out is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh.
It's like a Guillermo del Toro produced director of Troll Hunter, horror remake of or adaptation of that book that everybody had in their
you had it too?
Elementary school library. Yeah,
we had it.
Yeah, and it looks, I don't know how amazing it looks, but it looks like they did a lot of practical effects, and I'm really curious to see how it turns out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Director of Troll Hunter, Derek.
That's what I just said.
Oh, sorry.
You agreed with me when I said it.
Never mind.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Hobbs and Shaw. Of course, I love the Fast and Furious movies, so I'm super psyched on that. I love The Rock, the most electrifying man in all of entertainment. But I'm also really curious about the movie Blinded by the Light. It could be very bad. Like, it could be a really cheesy, terrible, annoying movie, but the trailer looks so much fun. I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan. I just love this idea of this Indian kid just getting obsessed with the boss and helping, Bruce Springsteen using his words to get him through life. So really curious to see how that movie's going to turn out.
Wait, that's the one from the director of Bend It Like Beckham.
Oh yeah, I mixed them up. Sorry.
But yeah, you know what, Nick? The second I saw that trailer, I thought of you.
Yeah,
because I don't know much about Bruce Springsteen, but I know you've always been a big fan of him.
Yeah, man, I love the boss. Just, I don't know. There's that line in the trailer where he's like, he quotes Born to Run. He's like, "Tramps like us, we were born to run." And his friend's like, "Did you write that? That's crap." Just love it.
The trailer really made me want to listen to him. I've never really listened to, I've maybe just heard his songs in passing.
He's so
but
good.
I've never listened to him, but it sounds great.
So good. Anyway, so with that, thanks everybody for listening. And we'll talk to you next month.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.